नमस्ते। सहस्राक्षं गुणाधीशं स्वगुरुं च सरस्वती जनकं जनयत्रीं च शास्त्रादौ प्रणमाम्यहम्. Good afternoon, everyone. Myself, Dr. Narayan Kia, Assistant Professor in the Department of Shalya Tantra from Sri Paripurna Sanatana Ayurveda Medical College, Bangalore. So, from today, I'll be taking online classes in this lockdown quarantine period for all the UG and PG students in the subject of Shalya Tantra. So most of the students here are as UG students. I'll be concentrating mainly on the UG syllabus as per the CCIM guidelines. And many UG, along with UG students, PG students are also joining the classes and have been requesting for including all the TICA points which are important for them to understand the subject in depth. So I'll be dealing the topics as per the UG syllabus along with some relevant and important points, so which are very important from the concept of or from the tikas of Dalhanacharya and Chakrapani Acharya. So the first point in our syllabus, as we all know, it's the basic introduction of Shalya and Shalya Tantra. So we will be discussing throughout the class on these topics, Shalya and Shalya Tantra. Before that, usually the mindset of all the students, of UG students, including me when I was in UG, is so we usually tend to neglect these things, thinking that these are very simple topics. We can study this at the last, so, and we usually don't give so much of importance to these topics. But it should not happen. So these topics, even though they are very small and very few points come for the examination in this, so but the knowledge in this is very important to know the exact concept or structure of the whole Sushruta Samhita regarding Shalya Shastra. So we'll be dealing with this, and if the students feel any doubts, they can comment in the comment section below, and I'll be answering those as and when. So we will start, as I previously said, the first concept or the first topic in the CCM syllabus is the introduction to Shalya and Shalya Shastra. So we will see before that a brief introduction of what is Shalya Tantra, and then we'll go on for the proper Shalya Tantra topic in detail. So as we all know, Shalya Tantra is a branch of Ashtanga Ayurveda. It's one among the anga of the Ashtanga Ayurveda. But if we see the order of these Ashtanga Ayurvedas mentioned in our classics as per different acharyas, we can know that it is not the same. So is there any specific reason for this order of the Ashtanga Ayurvedas to be mentioned by our acharyas in a different order as per each Samhita? So basically, if we see the order given by Sushruta Acharya is, it starts from Shalya and goes on like Shalya Shalakya Kaya Chikitsa Bhuta Vidya Kaumara Bhritya Agda Tantram Rasayana Tantram Vajikarana Tantram Miti. This is as per Sushruta Samhita first Adhyaya, that is Vedopatyam Adhyaya. So here if we see the mentioning of Ashtanga Ayurveda is Shalya Tantra. Whereas if we consider Vagbhata's reference, that is in Ashtanga Hridaya first chapter, if we see, the verse goes like this: Kaya Balagraha Urdvanga Shalya Damsha Jara Vushat Ashtavangani Tasmahu Chikitsayesu Samsitaha. So this is as per Ashtanga Hridaya. Vagbhatacharya is given in this order. So here the first branch which is, or the first Ashtanga branch of Ashtanga Ayurveda which is mentioned is Kaya Chikitsa. So with this classification and the order of the mentioning of the Ashtangas, we can come to know that Sushruta Samhita is mainly Shalya Tantra Pradhana Shastra, and whereas Charaka and Vagbhatacharya, they have given more importance to Kaya Chikitsa and a little importance to Shalya and other departments. So based on this, due to Shalya Pradhana Shastra, we are taking more of the references from Sushruta Samhita, and also we take other relevant references from Charaka Samhita, Ashtanga Hridaya or Sangraha and other Samhitas also. So we'll be dealing each part, taking these different contexts and different references, and we'll deal each topic in detail as per your UG syllabus. So starting with Shalya Tantra, the introduction, the word Shalya Tantra itself has two words in it. That is, if If we split the word Shalya Tantra, it has Shalya and Tantra. So we'll deal individually Shalya in detail and then we'll go for Tantra in detail. And we'll see what are the views of different acharyas based on these topics. So we'll take Shalya first. So as we all know, Shalya in general term what we consider is the foreign body. Any foreign body which has entered into the body is considered as Shalya in general terms. But Shalya is not only foreign body, it has an in-depth meaning which we have to understand. And by the end of this class, I'm sure everybody will have an in-depth knowledge of what is Shalya and what is its interpretation, what are the other interpretations, what we can do based on other classical references. So as per Sushruta Samhita, it is as given by Sushrutacharya in Pranashta Shalya Vidhi Adhyaya. So the definition of Shalya is, the derivation of Shalya is Shala Shval Ashugamane Dhatu. That is, the derived, Acharya Sushruta says that the word Shalya is derived from the Dhatus Shala and Shvala. And he also gives the meaning Ashugamane Dhatu. The Dhatus Shala and Shvala means that Ashugamana, that is fast moving, Ashugamana. Whereas Dalhanacharya, while commenting on these things, explain the in-depth meaning. So first of all, he agrees with the meaning what is given by Acharya Sushruta, and he says Shalashwal Ashugamana iti Shalashwal Ashugamana Dhatau Anayor Ashugamanam Ityartaha. So he agrees with the definition what is given by Acharya Sushruta, and he says it is nothing but the Ashugamana. The meaning is nothing but Ashugamana, that is fast moving. Anything that moves fast into the body can be considered as Shalya. He again further explains that Shala Himsaya Dhatuhu Tasya Shalyam iti Rupam iti. That is Shala Himsaya Dhatuhu. The term or the Dhatu Shala is also giving a meaning as Himsaya, that which causes Himsa. We can consider it as any sort of discomfort or pain can be taken as Himsaya. And he also gives another meaning. He says Apare Shala Rujayam iti. Apare means other acharyas also. Others will also consider the meaning of Shala as Rujayam, that is Ruja, is nothing but pain. So we can consider the word meaning or the dhatus, that is Shala and Shvala, means Ashugamana Dhatu, that is fast moving, Himsaya Dhatu, that is that which causes Himsa to the body which has entered, and also Rujayam, that which causes pain. So these terms can be put together and we can interpret a meaning as any object that enters the body in a fast motion and causes discomfort and pain to the body can be considered as Shalya. This is the basic classical reference which is given by Sushruta and Dalhanacharya. So moving further, also in Sushruta Samhita, Yantra Vidhi Adhyaya, Sutrasthana 7th chapter, Yantra Vidhi Adhyaya. So there is one more definition of Shalya which is given, that is Manaha Sharira Bhadakarani Shalyani. That which causes Bhada to Mana and also Sharira can be considered as Shalya. So this is the definition given by Acharya Sushruta in Yantra Vidhi Adhyaya. Again, there is one more definition which is given by Acharya Sushruta in Pranashta Shalya Vidhi Adhyaya, that is Sarva Sharira Bhadakaram Shalyam. That which causes Bhada to the Sarva Sharira, to all over the body, that can be considered as Shalya. These are the basic definitions which is given by Acharya Sushruta and Dalhanacharya. So with this basic knowledge, we continue with the classification of Shalya. Broadly classifying, there are two categories where Shalya can be divided. The first one being, the first classification being, Shalya can be classified into Sharirika and Agantuka. That is, one which is originated within the body is called as Sharirika. Agantuka refers to the one which is originated outside the body and then it has entered the body. This is Agantuka. So one broad classification is Sharirika and Agantuka Shalyas, and there is one more broad classification which is Sharirika and Manasika. Sharirika Shalya refers to all those which affects the body can be considered as Sharirika Shalya. Manasika Shalya refers to all those Shalya which affects the Manasika Bhavas the functions of the manas can be considered as manasika shalyas. So this is as per Sushruta Samhita Sutrasthana 26th chapter, Pranashta Shalya Vidyadhyaya. So again, in detail, we'll be studying this, taking one at a time, and we'll see individual references, individual commentaries, and different opinion as per Dalhanacharya and Chakrapani Acharya. Since many PG students are also listening to the class, we'll be including few more Acharya's commentaries like Chakrapani Acharya as per Bhanumati Tika and Dalhanacharya commentary, this Nibandha Sangraha Tika also. But UG students can concentrate mainly on Sushruta Acharya, and if they include Acharya Dalhana's commentary and Chakrapani's commentary also, it is well and good. But this is mainly for PG students. So continuing further, so Sharirika Shalya. So we'll come into Sharirika Shalya in detail now. So as we previously spoke, Sharirika Shalya is nothing but that one which is originated within the body and affects only the Sharirika Bhavas. This is called as, broadly called as Sharirika Shalyas. In Sushruta Samhita, first chapter again, so Acharya Sushruta gives, while explaining the definition of the Shalya Tantra, he explains the different types of Shalyas. Like Shalyam Nama, Tatra Shalyam Nama, Vividha Trunakasta Pashana Panchiloha, Asti Bhalanaka, the shloka goes on. But here he has mentioned both Sharirika Shalya and Manasika Shalya. Here from Asti Bhalanaka Adi. So the shloka goes like Vividha Trunakasta Pashana Panchiloha Loshta Asti Bhalanaka Puyasrava. So from the point of Asti, if we consider Asti Bhalanaka Puyasrava Dushtavrana Antagarbha. So this can be considered as Sharirika Shalya because these originate within the body and cause pain to the body. So this is Sharirika Shalya because as they are originating within the body. Asti is nothing but again bone, Bala hair, Naka nails, Puyasrava, Puya is pus. Again, the word Puyasrava can be taken into two aspects. If we take Puyasrava as one word, so we can just know the meaning as any pus discharge from a cavity, from an infected cavity. Whereas if you consider, use Sandhi Vichedana here, and if you consider Puya separately and Srava separately, you can get a variety of different interpretation here. So Puya considers as only pus, and Srava can be of any discharge from any cavities of the body. It can be serous discharge, it can be serosanguinous discharge, or purulent discharge, or mucopurulent discharge. So the word Puya Srava has two interpretations, Puya separate and Srava separate, so which gives a wide meaning to this sentence. And Dushtavrana, again, this is one Sharirika Shalya which hampers or which causes discomfort to the body. And Antagarbha. Antagarbha can be taken as a dead fetus. It can be taken as an impacted fetus which is hampering the life of the mother. So that can be taken as Antagarbha, or in other words, it can also be considered as Mudagarbha. So these are the examples of Sharirika Shalya as per Sushruta Acharya. So further he also says in Sushruta Samhita Sutrasthana 26th chapter, Tatra Shariram Dantaroma Nakhadi Datavo Annamala Doshascha Dushtaha. This is as per Pranashta Shalya Vidyadhyaya 26th chapter of Sushruta Sutrasthana. So this shloka is very important because it gives a wide meaning, and also Dalhanacharya has given a wide explanation on this shloka. So I will read out the shloka again. Tatra Tatra Shariram Dantaroma Nakhadi Datavo Annamala Doshashta Dushtaha. That is, the Sharirika Shalyas are nothing but Danta Roma Nakhadi. Danta Roma Naka and Adi. The word Adi here, as per Dalhana, it gives a complete different concept here. He says Adi Shabdat Kaischit Shmashru Puya Pakshmani Grihyante. The word Adi here refers to Shmashru. Shmashru is the hair of the mustache. Puya, the pus discharge, and Pakshmani Grihyante. Pakshma refers to the eyelashes. The hair which is grown on the tip of the eyelids can be considered as Pakshma. So these can be considered under the word Adi in the shloka given by Sushruta. That is Danta Roma Nakhadi. Danta, Roma, Naka and Adi refers to Shmashru, Puya and Pakshma. The Sushruta continues, Dhatavo Annamala Doshashcha Dushtaha. Dhatavo refers to the Sapta Dhatus. Dhatavo Annamala. The three malas can be considered here. Annamala, Doshashcha Dushtaha. And the three doshas and Dushtaha. The word Dushtaha is very important. Here the Dushtaha word refers to all these like Dhatavos, Saptadhatus, Trimalas and three doshas when they are in Dushta Avastha, that is in Prakupita Avastha, or when they are not in their normal Prakrita Avastha can be considered as Shalya. So this word is very important and plays an important aspect in giving the meaning for this sentence. So Tatra Shariram, Dantaroma Nakadi, Dhatavo Annamala, Doshascha Dushtaha. So all the Dushta, Dhatus, Malas and Doshas can be considered as Sharirika Shalyas. So further, as I said, Dalhanacharya gives exact interpretation of each word as given by Sushruta. So the word Adi, he explains it as Shmashru, Puya and Pakshmani Grihyante. The word Adi can be considered as Shmashru, Puya and Pakshma. So again he considers, he says that Dhatavo Rasadayaha, that is the Rasadi Dhatus, as explained by the Acharya Sushruta as Dhatavo Annamalaha, Dhatavo Rasadayaha, Mala, Mutra Purisha, Karnamala, Sveda, Netravit Prabrutayaha. The word Annamala does not only refers to Trimalas, it also refers to Karnamala, Netravit, Netramala, Sveda and Prabrutayaha. All the malas which is produced in the body can be considered under the one word, that is dosha Annamala. That is Annamala can be taken as Dvandva Sandhi there. So Anna again it gives Annamala Trimala concept, and other the word, the second part of the word Mala will come and will get the meaning as Netramala, Karnamala, Puya and other malas which is produced in the body can be considered as the mala which is mentioned there. And also doshaha vatadayaha. Doshascha in the main shloka as per Sushruta is nothing but vatadayaha. That is vata, pitta, kapha and rakta can also be considered here, but there is no specific reference of considering of rakta here. So we can take it as a separate separate topic. But now for now we'll consider only vata, pitta and kapha. So moving on further, he also gives again clarification on the word dushtaha, and he says, Dalhanacharya says, Dhatu anna dosha dushtaha santaha shalyabhutaha. That is Dhatu anna and dosha dushtaha. Only when they are dushta, that is when they are not in their prakrita avastha or when they are in vikrita avastha, when they have got vitiated, only then they are in the form of shalyabhuta. Only then they can be considered as shalya, that which causes bada to the sharira. So this is as per Dalhanacharya. So again further moving, if we see the commentary on the same shloka by Chakrapani Acharya in this Bhagavati Tika, again it is very clearly and very vividly explained by Acharya Chakrapani here. So I'll read out the first part of the shloka. He says, Sharira Shalya Vivarane Danta Roma Nakadi Grahanam Dantadishu Rudyartham Shalya Shabdasya Yogat. So here the word which is given by Acharya Sushruta as Danta Roma Nakadi etc. is used in the Rudya form. It is in the conventional usage form. As a regular usage name it is used, but the exact meaning is something different here. Not the regular Danta Roma Naka what we use in our regular conventional conversation. That is not mentioned here. It is just used as a in a Rudya form. But the exact meaning is what? He explains it in a next further shlokas. He says, Tatahi, that is, he explains what is the exact meaning of this Tatahi, Dantas Chalitaha, Shariram Shalyam. The word Danta, which is used in the Rudya form, it is in the conventional, normal conversational form by Acharya Sushruta, it is meaning like Dantas Chalitaha, Shariram Shalyam. Only when a Danta is Chalita. Chalita here refers to getting disimpacted or being removed. only then it can be considered as Shalya. So the mandibular alveolar arch which is there and the teeth which is located in the alveolar arch, when it gets disimpacted from that arch, when it gets disimpacted from its normal prakrita sthana, only then it can be considered as Shalya and not when it is normally located in the alveolar arch. When it's swasthana, when it is normally located, it cannot be considered as Shalya. So this point you have to important mainly for considering Danta as the Shalya, it has to be Chalita. Dantas Chalitaha Shariram Shalyam. So this is important. Next, he also continues, Anyatra Gatra Pravishtam Mukyam Shalyam Cha Bhavati. So the Chalita Danta, after it is getting disimpacted from its normal position, if it enters the other Gatra, Anyatra Gatra Pravishtam, if it enters the other organs or other ashayas, only then it can be considered as Shalya. So the meaning is very clearly mentioned here. Dantas Chalitaha Shariram Shalyam. It is when the teeth gets disimpacted or removed from its normal position, from the normal alveolar arch, and it enters Anyatra Gatra Pravishtam. It enters other ashiyas, other gatras. Only then this Danta can be considered as Shalya. And he continues further and says, Evam Ubhayarupo Nakaha. In the same way, just like Danta, Naka is also considered to be Shalya only when it gets impacted from its normal sthana and enters Anya Gatra. Only then Danta and Shalya can be considered as Shalyas. Danta and Naka can be considered as Shalyas, and if they are located in the Prakrita sthana, it cannot be considered as Shalya. So this is very important. You should keep in mind. So when Danta should be considered as Shalya and when it should not be considered as Shalya. So again further he says, Tatra Akshni Pratipam. So again the previous shloka we have seen Akshni, that is the eyelashes are also considered as the Shalya. But when to consider eyelashes as Shalya? So he says Tata Akshni Pratipam. The word Pratipam here is very important. The word Pratipam refers to inward growth or abnormal growth of the eyelashes, Akshni. That is, whenever there is inward growth of the eyelashes, hampering or damaging the globe of the eye, only then they can be considered as Shalya. Tata Akshni Pratipam Romam Shariram Shalyam Anyatra Sharira Pradeshe. That is, as previously discussed, just like Danta and Naka, Anyatra Sharira Praveshe. That is, if they enter into other body organs or ashayas or pradeshas, they can be considered as Shalya. And one more important concept what he says here is Vranantargatam Mukyam Cha Shalyam Miti. So Vranantargatam Mukyam Cha Shalyam Miti. If they enter the Vrana, if the Pakshma which is fallen out, if they enter the Vrana, they can be considered as Shalya. So not regular growth or normal growing Pakshma or the eyelashes cannot be considered as Shalya, but when they are growing inward, when they are abnormally grown, or when they are damaging the eyeballs, and when they enter into other ashiyas or sharira pradeshas, and they enter vranantargata, that is in the bed of the ulcer, the wound, they can be considered as Shalya. So Acharya Chakrapani here clearly mentions when Danta, Roma and Naka has to be considered as Shalya and when they have to be considered as Prakrita. So I hope Sharirika Shalya till here has been cleared for everyone. If there are any doubts, you can comment in the comment box and I'll be happy to answer that. So further moving on, we'll go to Agantuka Shalya. So again, in the same shloka what Sushritacharya has mentioned, in the first chapter itself, while explaining the definition of Shalya Tantra, he says, Shalyam Nama Vividha Thunakasta Pashana Pamshu Loha Loshta and Astibhala Naka. So Puyasrava Antagarbha, we are Dushtavrana Antagarbha, we are considering it under Sharirika Shalya. Whereas up to Astibhala and Naka, we have to consider under Agantuka Shalya. So Shalyam Nama Vividha Truna. Truna is nothing but grass particles. Kashta, nothing but wood, minor particles of the wood or maybe microparticle of the wood. Pashana is nothing but stone. Palm shoe is nothing but plant dust or hay dust, what we can say. Loha, metal. Loshta is nothing but the mud or clay lumps. They are called as loshta. Asti, bala, and naka. These are the examples of agantuka shalya. So here if you see, so asti, bala, naka can also be considered as sharirika shalya and agantuka shalya. So how can it be considered as both sharirika shalya and agantuka shalya? If we give a thought on this, sharirika shalya, asti, bala, naka as sharirika shalya we can consider only when they get chalita, when they get disimpacted and they enter anyagatra pradesha, or when they enter vranantargata, they can be considered as sharirika shalya when they are located within the body and they enter other sthanas. When they get dislodged and enter other sthanas, they can be considered as sharirika shalya, where they enter within the sharira to other part, from prakrita sthana in the sharira to vikrita sthana within the sharira in other part. So this is sharirika shalya, and asti, bala, naka sharirika shalya can be considered in this way. Whereas agantuka shalya, if we consider asti, bala, and naka, these can be considered as anything which is given externally from the outside the body and then which enters into the body. So asti, bala, naka, if we consider as agantuka shalya, they can be considered as garavisha. So powdered asti can be given as a form of garavisha. Again, bala and naka, we all have known. It is explained as through garavisha or mode of through which garavisha can be administered. So it is administered from outside the body to inside the body. So these asti, bala, naka can be taken as both sharirika shalya and agantuka shalya. In agantuka shalya, we have to consider it as a garavisha. So again, Acharya Sushruta in Pranashta Shalya Vidya Adhyaya, he says agantvapi, while explaining the different types of agantuka shalya, agantvapi sharira shalya vitirekena yavanto bhavaha. So that is sharira shalya vitirekena. All those shalyas other than the sharirika shalyas can be considered as agantuka shalya. He also further continues yavanto bhava dukkam utpadayanti. So yavanto bhavaha dukkam utpadayanti. That is all those which are entering into the body and causing dukkha, which does uppanna of dukkha, can be considered as agantuka shalya. So those which are excluding the sharirika shalyas and which enter the body and cause dukkha can be considered as agantuka shalya. So again, this is very important, and remember the difference between sharirika shalya and agantuka shalya. Then only you can understand why exactly the different meanings have been given to each. So further moving on these shlokas, Acharya Dalhana explains the word bhava as explained by Acharya Sushruta in this, that is agantvapi sharira shalya vitirekena yavanto bhavaha dukkam utpadayanti. The word bhava refers to here padarthas which are truna, kasta, pashana, panchuloha, loshta and prabhutaya and other particles. So this is as per Acharya Dalhana. The word bhava gives a wide meaning which includes all these. That is truna, kasta, pashana, panchu and loha. This is as per Dalhana. So further moving on, if you consider the Bhanumati Tika of Chakrapani ji, he explains the same thing. He accepts or agrees with the commentary as given by Acharya Dalhana and Sushruta, and he says agantu shalya udaharane sharira shalya vitirekena. Again, sharira shalya vitirekena refers to all the shalyas excluding the sharirika shalyas. Manasa shokadi shalyasyapi grahanam. So all those shalyas excluding the sharirika shalyas can be considered as agantuka shalya, and also manasa shoka. So here manasa shoka is considered as one of the agantaka shalya. So these agantaka shalya, so the manasa shoka can be of varied reason. It can be of varied reason explicated by some other third person, or can be from the own person, but it is from the causes outside the body. Hence, it is considered under agantuka shalya as per Chakrapani. So, because due to this, mentioning of Manasa Shoka as one of the Shalya, we can consider the second broad classification of Shalyas as we previously discussed, that is Sharirika and Manasika. That can be clearly seen in this shloka because Manasa Shoka has been explained as one of the Agantaka Shalya. At the same time, Acharya Sushruta also mentions Manasika Shalya in case of Shalyopanayini Adhyaya, 27th chapter of Sushruta Sutra Sthana, while explaining the different types of methods of removing the Shalya. That is the impaction of the Shalya. He mentions Harsha as one of the Chikitsa for Shoka, where he considers Shoka as one of the Shalya. So this is very important. There he considers Shoka as Manasika Shalya, and that's why he gives the treatment of Shoka as Harsha. So with that also we can uh, prove that the classification what we made, that is Sharirika and Manasika Shalyas, are correct. So this is as per the Ayurvedic description of the whole of Shalya here. So this is again, if I have to tell, the term Shalya does not only exactly correlate with only the foreign bodies. The Shalya has a wider description which we have already discussed, but since we are discussing regarding Shalya, many questions come in front of us. Like, is there any description or relevance of this Shalya in modern terminologies or modern contemporary science? So why this Shalya has been given so much importance in Ayurvedic classics, why not in modern classics? That is not so. Even modern science considers these Shalya as one of the main cause for causation of multiple diseases. This is as per the international classification of diseases. If you see, there is ICD classification, that is international classification of diseases. If you check this, the 2019 and 2020 version of this, that is ICD-10, and if you use the code as Z18.9, I repeat, if you go to ICD-10, the classification of diseases, and if you enter the code as Z18.9, you will get a list of whole foreign bodies which can be considered as the causation of diseases. We get a list of multiple foreign body which is mentioned by ICD organization, which I'll read out for you now. So then you can see what are the authenticity of our classics which our acharyas had written so many years, hundreds, thousands of years ago. So if you type in the code, that is Z18.9 in the ICD-10 classification and search, you'll get a list of foreign bodies. The list goes like this: acrylics, animal quill, cement, concrete, crystalline, depleted isotope, glass, metal, non-magnetic metal, non-therapeutic metal, non-therapeutic radioactive materials, specified NEC, radioactive materials, spine, stool, stone, tooth, wood. So these are the n number of among the n number of shalyas or the foreign bodies mentioned by ICD. These are few which I have read out. So if we consider the shalya definition, what Acharya Sushruta has given in the first chapter itself, Vivida, Truna, so it is mentioned by ICD. Kasta, again it is mentioned. Pashana, Panshu, Loha, Losta, again it is mentioned. That is metal, non-therapeutic metals, non-magnetic metals, and mud. Again, Losta, it is mentioned. And again, so all these classification or the types of shalyas, what is mentioned by Acharya Sushruta, is mentioned by the ICD classification as cause of the disease. So here we can come to know the authenticity of our acharyas, what they had written, and thousands of years ago. So as Acharya Sushruta itself says, Mimamsa na katanchana. So there is no need to verify again and again whatever that is mentioned in our classics, because it is well depicted, well scholared, and well explained by our acharyas, and there is no need to prove it again and again. So we have to consider whatever it is given, and we have to just implement in the practice so that we can get good results. So based on this, the Z18.9 classification of the ICD, we can come to know the different uh, Shalya, which is or the foreign bodies which is mentioned by the World Health World Organization, which considers all the points which is mentioned by our acharyas also. Okay, further moving. So till now we have considered what is Shalya, Agantuka Shalya, Sharirika Shalya, and we have also seen the modern aspects of these Shalya. So the whole concept of Shalya is very important because the whole Sushruta Samhita deals with these as the basic points, where this Shalya has been in the center point as a focal point, and around this the whole of the Sushruta Samhita deals with from point of removal of the Shalya or treating doshas as considering it as Shalya. So we'll go into further detail when the specific topic comes. So once we have completed Shalya now, we'll move on to Tantra. The second part of Shalya Tantra is Shalya we have finished, and Tantra moving on. So the definition of Tantra, as you all know, we have already studied, Trayate Anainaiti Tantra. And also it can be explained as Tanyate Vistaryate Jnanam Anainaiti Tantra. That which gives or spreads knowledge can be considered as Tantra. So the word Tantra, it is derived from the word root word dhatu tan or tanyate, that which means to give or to spread. This is called as Tantra. The definition of Tantra is that which gives or spreads the knowledge of Shalya and its management is called as Tantra. Here, the Shalya Tantra, that which deals with the Shalyas and its management and its removal, is called as Shalya Tantra. So, further moving on to the classical references of Shalya Tantra as given by our Acharyas. So, again, as previously we have seen the same definition. Tatra Shalyam Nama Vividha Trunakasya Pashana Pamshi Loha Loshta Asti Bhalanaka Dushtavrana Puyasrava Antagarbha Shalyodharanartham Yantra Shastra Ksharagni Pranidhanartham Vranavinishchayartham Cha. So the Shastra or the Tantra which deals with different types of Agantuka Shalyas like Vividha Truna Kasta Pashana Panshi Loha Loshta Asti Bhalanaka, and also which deals with Sharirika Shalyas like Nakha, Danta, Puyasrava, Dushtavrana, Antagarbha, and also which deals with the management of the removal and management of these shalyas can be considered as Shalya Tantra. And also the Shastra or the Tantra which deals with the usage and application of Yantra, Shastra, Kshara and Agni, and Vranavinishchayartham Cha, which deals with the complete concept of Vrana from the point of Vrana Shofa, from deciding whether the Vrana is Amaja Vrana, Pachyamana Amaja Shofa or Pachyamana Shofa or Pakvaja Shofa, and after the formation of Vrana till the complete Shodhana and Ropana of the Vrana, the Shastra which deals with all these things can be considered as Shalya Tantra. All these meanings are included in the word Intra Shastra Kshara Agni Pranidhana Vrana Vinishchayartham Cha. So the complete meaning of the whole Sushruta Samhita and Shalya Tantra is given in this shloka by Acharya Sushruta in the first chapter of Sutrasthana. Again, there is one more definition of Shalya Tantra which is given by again Acharya Sushruta in Vranaprashta Pranashta Shalya Adhyaya, that is Sarva Sharira Bhadakaram Shalyam Tad Ihopadishyate Ityatah Shalya Shastram. Sarva Sharira Bhadakaram Shalyam, that which causes Bhada to Sarva Sharira is called as Shalya, and Tad Ihopadishyate Ityatah Shalya Shastram, that which deals with these and its management is called as Shalya Shastra or Shalya Tantra. So this is again the definition given by Acharya Sushruta in 26th chapter. Again Acharya Dalhana comments on the same and he says Shalyam miti Shalyaharana Pradhanam Tantram Shalya Tantram. Shalyam miti Shalyaharana Pradhanam Tantram Shalya Tantram. The Tantra or the Shastra which deals in detail with Shalya and its properties, and which also deals with different methods of extraction and management of these shalyas which is located in the body can be considered as Shalya Tantra. So these are the definitions of Shalya Tantra as given by our Acharyas. So today we have seen, so as today was just a introduction class of Shalya Tantra, we have seen what is Shalya in detail as per different Acharyas. It is a derivation of Shalya, the concept of different Shalya, the classification of Shalya, the concept of Shalya, Sharirika Shalya and Manasika Shalya, Sharirika Shalya and Aguntika Shalya as per different acharyas, and we have seen what is Tantra, and we have learnt what is Shalya Shastra or Shalya Tantra as per Shushruta and Dalhanacharya. So hope today's class was beneficial, and if you have any doubts you can comment in the section below and I'll be answering it in the next class. And in the next class we'll be dealing with the next topic, that is the scope of Ayurveda and in the contemporary world, and also the drawbacks of Shalya Shastra and scope of Shalya Shastra in Ayurveda. And if you have any topic which has to be dealt and which you want me to deal in the next for coming classes, please again comment down. So I'll be dealing with that first and then go with the syllabus points. So hope today's class was beneficial. Thank you.